The hottest Cowboys player holdout story we've had perhaps since Emmitt Smith. Micah Parsons saying in a detailed post he does not want to be a Cowboy anymore. He's tired of the disrespect and has requested a trade directly to Stephen Jones. Significant update from this morning. And for the record, this isn't a show about blaming the Cowboys or Micah. We're just going to explore all the angles and motives and try to figure out what is most likely to happen next. Let's do this, Jimmy.
I got to say is, how about them Cowboys?
All right, welcome into How About Wow. I'm Gavin Dawson from The Fan. With me, as always, the former All-SEC academic lineman from Kentucky, New Bear Lesniewski. Big day in Oxnard, man. It was crazy. Biggest news day of the year in true Cowboys form comes when there's no actual practice.
Can I just say that you wake up this morning and the fog's coming in off the marina, and it's like, is this the tsunami weather? Are we finally getting it? And then it's 72.5 and sunny. There might be no better place to do training camp than Oxnard, California.
Absolutely perfect. Jerry knocked it out of the park, moving it here, and there's no reason to move anywhere, although like up to UCSB and Santa Barbara wouldn't be bad. No disrespect to Oxnard, but I guess that would be the only way you could improve on pure training camp perfection here in Oxnard. It's been a blast to cover the team this week and get an up-close personal view.
Absolutely.
Everybody got an up-close personal view on Micah Parsons' social media as he detailed and updated his perspective on what's been happening between him, his agent, and the Dallas Cowboys. He says in here that he and his pops cheered for the Cowboys when he was a kid. He wanted to wear the star for life. Says he no longer wants shots fired at him for getting injured while putting it all on the line for the team. He said when Jerry talked to him, he was surprised that Jerry was trying to get a deal done in that setting. And when they left, he said, well, that sounds pretty good. Why don't you call my agent? And the Cowboys are trying to say they had a handshake deal and they don't need the agent.
Yeah.
That's dirty to me. We'll talk about that. But, Micah concluded here by saying he's tired of all the narratives being put out there about him. And he no longer wants to continue being a Cowboy. So it sounds like a guy that's hurt. I think a lot of players have been in this exact same situation and they have chosen to just write it out and kind of laugh at Jerry and accept it as part of being a Cowboy. But it ticked off Micah. I do wonder if this is a sign that maybe Micah really doesn't want to be here that much and he's a Philadelphia guy.
This will be the third time that I've brought up Landman. And I'm just saying, I know he went on there and gave a speech, meaning Jerry Jones, that he's given a few times in a few different capacities. This, what you hope for, Cowboys Nation, is that it's a little bit of the engagement farming script.
Oh, absolutely.
And that there's really nothing to see here. And in 4 weeks, we break the bank, we reset the market, and this is almost forgotten about. But today, when you have a rival NFC East GM being quote texted, ha ha ha, I love this. Probably the Giants. It's pretty freaking crazy.
It is, and that's why I opened up saying it's the hottest holdout we've had since Emmitt Smith, because I think this could be heading to the player actually missing games. I think it's for sure headed for a franchise tag. So when you get parties that are this dug in and get words like Micah Parsons put out there that we've never seen something like that. We've never seen somebody go on social media. It does make you wonder if the engagement farming and the delaying has irritated a player to an extent that it's not reconcilable. We saw this with Michael Young and the Rangers in 2011, 2012. Ultimately, they came to an understanding. We've seen this with Myles Garrett. We've seen this with plenty of players. I do think, if you take it at face value that this isn't Jerry and Micah sitting back pimping the news cycle, that this is really, the Cowboys failing to make a star player feel appreciated during a negotiation. If that's really what it is, and Micah is this ticked off, then it's a massive story that includes, could this sink the season? Will Micah Parsons be traded? And we'll get into those. But I wanted to make it real clear here, New Bear, exactly how far apart the sides are.
Well, before you do that, let's not forget, the last time this happened at this level, you're talking about Emmitt Smith. Season started 0-2. It ended with their third Super Bowl in 4 years.
Okay.
Right? I mean, there is hope. There's a rainbow or
Yeah.
light at the end of the tunnel that isn't a train.
Yeah. I think what's really different now as compared to Emmitt Smith is Jerry actively trolling the players in the media. Probably in his mind, he is juicing the news cycle. He's really putting something on it to, give the bait for headlines and clicks. But if not, then this thing is, headed for a massive standoff. Okay, so the Cowboys' bill for this year and 2 franchise tag years would come out to $85 million for 3 years.
28-3 per.
It's just such a massive yeah, it's 24, 27, and 33.
Yeah.
That, how the franchise tag works for some positions is massively unfair because there's not many guys at the top, and the average of theirs just doesn't come out to be enough money. Because of that, that's why the Cowboys and DeMarcus Lawrence were unable to get a deal done.
Absolutely.
10 years ago, 9 years ago, and that one got ugly as well. Stephen Jones actually got into a cussing match with DeMarcus's agent at the combine.
Right.
Like multiple media people observed that. So I don't think this is anything that new as far as the Cowboys reaching this level of acrimony. But, that one's huge right there. So if you could have, and by the way, not only is it 3 and 85, but every year we have an option essentially. Do you get hurt? Does your play decline? Like
Absolutely.
You have no guarantee. So if you're Micah Parsons, you want $200 million. And right now they're saying you can have 24. And next year, if we like this arrangement, you can have 31. And the year after that, we can do a little bit more. So I'm looking at, man, I'm going to be 28 years old by the time. And there's no guarantee, right? Am I going to be set up for life? Yes. But I might end up losing 60, 80% of the market value that I have right now. So the franchise tag is nasty.
This is like what they were talking about with the Luka deal that he's potentially up, where if he takes the shorter deal now, the next deal is something like 5 years and $417 million. And, you do things with tremendous intent from the player perspective. Like we've talked about, if Micah is trying to push the years down, it's because he's trying to avoid all the nonsense that TJ Watt and Myles Garrett just went through.
Yeah.
He's going to be well under. Terry McLaurin, same thing. I mean, the guy turns 30 in a couple weeks. It's not like people are making him out to be like octogenarian. Mm-hmm. And 30 is the magic number pretty much across the board, right? Where teams get leery of committing the biggest money for the longest term. So he's trying to get ahead of that. I've said the guarantees because that's been the big bugaboo with Watt and Garrett. And then the year from the player's perspective, what's really mind-blowing about this is that when you talk about where the number could go, like if Dak got 60, we've thrown out like, are they just going to throw $50 million a year at him and make him the Dak of the defense? Like you're talking about where he is to the franchise tag. We've been talking about where he could be to where the Joneses might go.
Yeah.
This couldn't be a more different conversation than that.
No, and it's crazy because basically what you're asking the Cowboys to do is, and other teams have done this, is say, okay, we could franchise tag you, but we recognize that you're great, and we're going to just throw away all this contract leverage and give you a contract commensurate with with the other top players at your position. But the Cowboys are so hell-bent on managing the cap very, very tightly that they're looking at this like, dude, you want us to just give you $12 million because? That extra $12 million for the Cowboys is 4 or 5 starting players every free agency, how they hand
absolutely.
out. So I don't think as a Cowboys fan, you can clearly say the Cowboys are negligent or they're being the bad guys for not giving Micah Parsons. Like
the timing of it, though. The big part of this, the two things are the I no longer, the language that you use the word hurt.
Yeah.
What's hurt the Cowboys in this is if it's true, if we're to believe the player at face value or at notes app value, then he wanted this deal done last year and he was willing to take less.
Yeah.
If that's true, that's criminal mismanagement.
Yeah, and I think that's a fair point. For whatever reason, the Cowboys have drugged things out, and we've been highly critical of them, But I think when it comes to that situation specifically, sorry, I lost my train of thought there, Newberry. What'd you mention?
So we were talking about how Micah, as part of the Notes app, said, I wanted this done last year, and I was willing to take less.
Yes, okay, so thank you for bringing that up, because at OTAs or minicamp, they had essentially a handshake deal around the parameters.
Jerry thought that.
Yeah, Jerry. But Micah said, yeah, that pretty much sounds good. right? I think what's really offended Micah is since then they've ghosted him.
Mm-hmm.
They haven't given him any feeling of importance or appreciation around this football team.
Sure.
It's been disrespect. Like, oh yeah, you keep getting hurt, even though I'm literally going out here and risking my life, risking CTE for the star. I'm trying to put the star back into a deep playoff run. I'm your best defensive player.
And the only injury we're talking about is a 4-game high ankle sprain.
Yeah. So it wasn't even the 6 games that Jerry exaggerated it into.
Yeah.
So I think if you're Micah right now, the reason that you are here right now is not the nature of the offers and the contract negotiation. It's that the Cowboys are treating you in a way that you don't want to be treated by your employer. Like how much for job satisfaction and life satisfaction is having a feeling of appreciation, importance for where your vocation is.
Well, and regardless of what you think, believe, or value a player, name one, pick CD, Jake Ferguson, whatever, like Dak is obviously the litmus test and he's an outlier. You can almost throw that one out, except for the fact that Micah has proven it. Micah's come out and he's on lists where he's either the only guy or the list is him and Reggie White. He's on lists and has done things that Dak didn't do, and Dak got paid. And yeah, he's a quarterback, but he's also done things that even CD hasn't done.
But Dak did have to take it to, I'm going to be a free agent soon.
Sure.
And that's when the Cowboys were like, oh, okay, he's going to be a free agent. We better give him everything he wants. And I think if Micah was willing to wait 3 years in 2028, if he kept playing well, they would make him the highest paid edge ever by a very significant margin. It's just that right now, the Cowboys know David Mulligeta and all agents are busting our ass in negotiation. They are taking every piece of leverage they can and weaponizing it. And bleep you if you don't think it's okay for us to do that as well.
So where do you want to go into the leverage, like first? The raw data? I know you've got some stuff about...
Yeah, okay, so, we could go to Bill Barnwell here, and this surprised me, but he's looking at EPA per play. And let me just get a timestamp here real quick so I can go back and add that. How deep are we into this bad boy? There we go, 11 minutes and 30 seconds. But Bill Barnwell, anyway, he says that when Micah's on the field the last 4 years, the Cowboys are the #1 team EPA per play. When he's off the field, second worst EPA per play. I don't think anybody would argue the Cowboys are even a top 5 defense over the last 4 years. At times, they've appeared to be top 5, like for a couple of games in the Dan Quinn era. It looked like they were coming around. Maybe they've been top 10, but I do think part of this is the effect of how easy their schedule was in 21, 22, and 23. And then Micah was hurt in a lot of the games against the best offenses in 2024. So that's a quirk, but it shows you his impact. Even if it's 8 to 29th or 8 to 24th, it is freaking unbelievable. It's an on-off switch when you put Micah in the game.
Yeah, and that's when you say weaponized, that's a negative connotation because the agent is adversarial with the team, right? On behalf of the player against Jerry Jones, against Stephen Jones. And what is absolutely insane about that is that both the data and the eye tests tell you, show you, prove to you that this dude is worth every penny. If Myles Garrett is worth this, if TJ Watt is worth this, then Micah Parsons is worth that. That's it. That's literally
in an open market. Yeah, in an open market. But the Cowboys and the NFL owners were smart and wanted to give themselves a trump card they can play in this situation in the form of the franchise tag, and it's brutal. So for a player, how do you mitigate that? You have to hold out, and you have to threaten. You're not even going to have me at all, right? Something that was said a lot today.
Are you talking about next year or are you talking about this year?
At some point.
Okay.
Either or.
You think he plays out, if nothing happens, you think he plays for 20, 21, 24, whatever the change comes out to be? Like, if they change nothing, is he handing in $1.5 million, $2 million every week and just saying, I'm all right, we'll figure it out later because there's 200 more milk. The $200 million is going to come from someone. Yeah. It's just a matter of, is it going to cost him 20 this year?
He is such a businessman. He's the biggest cheapskate I think we've seen in the NFL since Marshawn Lynch. So there's 2 ways you can take that. Number 1, would he actually not get a game check?
Right.
Or number 2, would he actually play for such peanuts?
Relative.
And risk injury,
Absolutely.
And never get the $200 million.
Sure.
I think the smartest businessman move would say, I'm not taking the field again until I get my $200 million contract.
Well, and that's the thing is that when we were joking about the $50 million a year, do the simple math times 4, that's 200. But the team might be trying to get him. If you want 200, then you got to go to 5 years.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Like
Right.
5 and 200 or 4 and 165 or 5 and 210.
Yeah, and then how much
You
is
know,
guaranteed?
Sure.
Right.
I mean, yeah. And if you do it with the Cowboys, the whole thing's guaranteed because they're going to instantly start flipping switches. And
Which would
backloading.
be something that he can say that other teams don't, because the Steelers have an out in the 4th year of TJ's extension, and there's leverage that the team maintains going forward when you're 30, 31, 32, 33. Micah's going to be going through that in the 3rd contract. That's the thing that's so fascinating about this is like there's the business side of it. You go, why would I just give you 12 just because? You do it because you're expecting him to be the humble beast and come in there and lead the charge the same way that you paid Dak to do it and you paid CeeDee Lamb to do it. And now you got the king of summer vibes and shopping and everything he's trying to institute. The danger in this is if this lingers, because he's not leaving.
Yeah.
And that's the craziest part about this is he's saying, I'm out, get me out of here. But he's also saying, I'll see you at practice tomorrow.
Right. Yeah. Because you can't leave. Then you start getting fined
Right.
for every practice missed. And, there's so many different layers to it. Like, how do you play out your hand? And, I think today on the tennis courts, one of the popular refrains was Micah Parsons will never not play because of how much he values each and every game check. But I think if you look at it like, right now the game checks are $1 million, but the difference in the contracts could be $115 million.
Absolutely.
Right. So it's a drop in the bucket compared to what your potential big win is here. So, I think the first real thing that I think fans wonder about in this topic is how is this going to end? And I think that's what you were getting at right there. I think they're going to press him to play on the tag. I think what they need to do is get on the phone and find a middle point, and maybe this is a flashpoint that gets the sides together.
I apologize for screwing up face, for interrupting you in the middle of you about to go on a heater. But all this talk, all this time has been about how we want to get a deal done from both sides. You really think that because he demanded a trade, now all of a sudden it's tag and tag only?
I do, because one thing... Yes, because he demanded a trade, it's tag. No, he is demanding a trade because it's tag only. Because he sees the writing on the wall. The Cowboys want him to take such a team-friendly deal. In order to give you more than what we have right now with the franchise tag, we'll meet you halfway. This is what I was getting to right here. I think you're looking at like 3 and 100, 3 and 105. Okay, we'll give you just to make you happy, right? Because we don't want angry Micah Parsons mailing it in and making business decisions. Let's guarantee 3 years and give you $35 million a year. We're going to split the difference here, Micah. That's the only way I see a long-term deal happening.
So we go from $1 more than Myles Garrett to now he's 3rd, and he's barely on the medal stand behind Myles and TJ.
Yeah.
And what's so crazy about this is if the engagement farming thing is for the $100 million that the team is going to make in Google AdSense, then this is going to potentially end up costing them the prime year in a comeback vengeance with George Pickens and CD and just about everything else you need, provided any luck from the injury gods, to make a real run at the East. And then if you get in, anything's possible with the playmakers they have on this team. But you're literally going to take the best player on it and have him not be a part of the picture.
It's very difficult to imagine them winning without him. I think, how could you justify it if you're the Cowboys? You could say, well, we're going to let him go, but this allows us to sign George Pickens. We were going to have Pickens as a one and done. Now, without Micah, we're going to have George Pickens plus another $10 million.
Doesn't the whole plan change, though? Micah was part of the plan about being as close to all in as you can be on 2025 and beyond. Pickens is an ancillary. Pickens is an add-on. Micah Parsons is the Dak of the defense, not just because he's going to be the highest paid, but because he's the most valuable and he's the best.
Yeah, I'm just thinking, like, how would you justify it if you're the Cowboys? Like, we don't want to give up any of our star players.
Sure.
But what's better than an edge, a touchdown maker, right? George Pickens, who's going to electrify the crowd.
The best tweet I saw today was no combination of picks between 2025 and 2028 would be better than Micah Parsons playing on however much you have to pay.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think Micah Parsons is an absolute game wrecker. But if he is holding your feet to the fire and saying, I'm not going to play for you, what is the discussion inside the Cowboys star that says, okay, here's how we can actually make this work. We're going to take away Micah from the fans, but we're now signing a George Pickens. We're going to have the press conference say it sucked to lose Micah, but it freed up the cash to sign George Pickens.
Yeah,
right?
But it's also got to be at least Khalil Mack. It's got to be 2 1s, a 3, cash. Like, it's got to be at least that because of the age, because of the all-pros, because of everything that goes into the stew. Like, Micah Parsons has put together a pretty unique package. Yeah. I mean, you can say that his resume right now, beyond being first ballot gold jacket or any of the things that it projects to, it's one of one right now.
Yeah, and like we talked about earlier, the chances of winning without Micah Parsons on your team go down significantly. But I also think we've seen over the last couple of years that defenses have proven we can get a handle on Dak with one wide receiver, and with an average offensive line, with an average running back, you're kind of stuck here. So you have to start committing more resources to the offense. I don't know if you're going to have the regular season success that you were allowed to when the NFC East was trash and your schedule kept getting lucky that you got to play some of the worst teams around the NFL. So, I mean, you have Dak for 4 more years. I think taking away an edge to add a bona fide co-number 1 next to CD makes a lot of football sense, New Bear.
I would love to do this almost as a sub pod, in the coming weeks as this thing continues to take shape, because it's only going to get uglier. If this becomes an end of August, first week of the season, the next 4 weeks, I mean, it's beyond T.O. get your popcorn ready. This is going to be like because he's going to physically be there so he doesn't get fined, and he's going to physically be there to basically say, hey guys, thanks for changing your avatars. Right? Like, look at me. We're still tight. And it's going to be impossible to ignore. And on top of that, the rumor mill is going to swirl to a point that is completely out of control. And then, oh, by the way, you're going to start getting game tape. Even in practice, you're going to go scrimmage another team. And if they come in here and kick you around, Micah can laugh all the way to the bank.
Yes, but on the other side, what if they just can't handle Lamb and Pickens? What if you're already seeing this is going to pay huge dividends?
What if they can't handle Sam and Easy?
Right? Yes. Okay. So that's the other thing we talked about quite a bit today. I don't know if Sam Williams is ready with his knee and with his pass rushing technique to go be a 12-14 sack guy, but I think Donovan Ezeraku could be already.
We keep just glossing over Dante Fowler, professional pass rusher.
What do you have, 11 last year for
10
Washington?
and a half.
10 and a half sacks. Okay. So I want to bring this up. You mentioned it a couple of times. This might be my favorite development that we've ever seen on Twitter mid-show. How likely is it that Jerry's doing this for just engagement? And I think it makes a lot of sense. And none other than Don Van Natta Jr. today, one of the great investigative journalists in all of the NFL. If Don Van Natta shows up on your doorstep for a comment, you are in trouble, boy. Well, anyway, so I took it as a tremendous compliment that he basically took the statement I made to Stephen Jones on the show Tuesday and made a tweet out of it.
Absolutely.
The Cowboys are willing to lose a couple of $1 million for X amount of money in engagement through July and August. Like, I don't know if Cowboys fans realize that the reason that all these national shows are talking about you, the reason the Star is on national TV probably for a combined 10 hours every day when you look at Fox and ESPN, is because they're the best soap opera. And if you take away them being talked about on national TV constantly, the brand awareness diminishes very quickly, right? And this is what makes Jerry an absolute brilliant businessman. And what I assumed he would let Micah know, right? Like, hey, this is what we're doing here. But today's development begs the question, does Micah know? Is Micah playing along here? I don't know. I mean, that's a hell of a job. Micah's very media savvy himself, though.
He is, and he even did it, I mean, in the Notes app screenshot thing. I did the same thing that Van Natta did to you. I got the 100 million valuation is from that tweet. And that's the number that people are putting it to. And that's plus. There's a little plus sign there. Who knows, right? I mean, unless you really go in and dig into the metrics, it's actually probably more than that. Yeah. Because it was on PTI. Yeah. And it was everywhere today where someone was saying some version of the thing that you've been saying for years. So
and the TV ratings, thank you. I appreciate that. Maybe it's just a coincidence that a great mind like Don Van Natta happened to have the conclusion that I made 3 days ago after making it for 3 years. But, there's so many different ways we could talk about this. Is Jerry at risk of losing his reputation for having great relationships with the players? I think is the next branch.
Does it matter though, or do you think he
I
really
think it
cares?
matters. Yes, I think it matters to Jerry. I think he's thought of himself as, I'm one of the cool guys. I'm the owner that the players like. I go party with the owner or the players. I maybe get something passed with the players. And
but I mean, we saw what happened with the NBA championship. This generation passes on all that, right? So is that even a thing anymore? Relative to what we're talking about and the way that we're talking about it, and is he really that tight, or was he really that tight? Like,
yeah,
you know what I like?
Yeah, Michael Irvin, those Cowboys love him. The Tony Romo Cowboys loved him. DeMarcus Ware. Now Dak Prescott really doesn't mess with him. Like, everything that happened in the back half of the last decade, and it gave Dak a certain opinion on him. And then on the other side of the negotiations, Dak really doesn't mess with Jerry Jones. Now you have Micah Parsons, leader on defense. All these players today on social media changing their profile picture to Micah Parsons.
Yeah,
I mean, so
I think the reason I wanted you to say that though, and go deeper than I could go based on how close you've been to the team for 15 years, is that this is the kind of thing that is going to future forward when Steven takes over, is going to keep big time free agents from wanting to come to Dallas. Because with social media, with all the things we're talking about, where all the places we saw this news and people aping your take to just today is only going to grow. Mm-hmm. And so it used to be when we were kids, you'd see 5 teams. That's who the network showed, and that's why the Steelers, that's why the Cowboys, the Packers, the Redskins, Commanders, the Bears, that's why those teams have followings. It's not just because they're in big cities. It's because that's who was pulsed to every city.
In the very early days of the Cowboys, they recognized, you want somebody to play on Thanksgiving? We're there.
Absolutely.
Any TV date, we'll change our schedule to get there, and that's why the Cowboys are so popular now.
Going forward, this is something that sets them up to have a big. If it comes down to all the dollars and cents, is basically going to be the same because of the CBA, because of the franchise tag, because of everything in between the top and what you can do on a year-to-year basis. It's basically going to be the same dollars and cents. What makes that, okay, so there's no state income tax, right? Or it's Texas, Florida, California weather, right? But you also have to, who are you playing for, right? Who are you playing with? And the fact that they're so involved and this is the way they do business, it's going to end up biting them in the ass with the next generation.
Yeah, and that's what I was kind of getting at. Not only with the next generation of players that might be free agents, and they have agents who say, man, you really don't want to go to the Cowboys. I think they can get over that just by offering more money. And as long as the star and the Cowboys are popular, I think it's going to be an attractive place to play because how you can grow your own brand. But, where that really gets interesting is who's thinking in the locker room right now, like, wow, if you are absolutely great on this team, they're going to make your life hell to get that deal.
Yeah, well, that's when the Minka Fitzpatrick, Jalen Ramsey thing happened, Pittsburgh and Miami, all those Miami players took to Twitter and said, oh, hey, that's great. This is the story of the Miami Dolphins. You play good, you make the Pro Bowl, they send you out of town. You play great, you make All-Pro, they send you out of town. Like, that, they don't wait anymore. Like, they have so much more control than they ever had in the past that they're just going to take it to the man, stick it to the man, because at the end of the day, the dollars and cents is the same.
Yeah. Okay, next branch on this Micah Parsons topic tree on How About Wow. Please, if you're still watching, consider hitting the like button, but also subscribe. That'd be fantastic, and we're going to be at this almost every day throughout the Cowboys season.
And don't forget, we were talking about this. We were digging into, speaking of data, all this talk about data, we noticed that a pretty hefty chunk of our subs and our views comes from the old TV as opposed to the phone that we're talking about with Gen Z. If you're in there, it's a little bit more of a toggle where you got to click, you got to D-pad over and hit that button. If you're on your phone, you can just hit the bell. So it's one more step, but it helps us bring more Cowboys news directly to you.
Be massive, and thank you. And please leave a comment down below. We love to chat Cowboys with you throughout the day. We're always checking the app and seeing, who wants to say something or give us an idea of maybe something we hadn't thought about.
Do you turn your hat around?
No, I'm not going to turn my hat around. I appreciate that, though. It reminds me of the Colin Cowherd, Tony Romo rant.
Absolutely.
About how can you, be a pro and a leader if you got your hat on backwards. I think that was the beginning of a very interesting heel turn for Colin. Anyway, Micah and his role. I love Colin, by the way. Micah and his role in this. Okay. Jane Slater had this report that a couple of years ago, the Cowboys front office actually had the conversation about trading him then.
Sure.
And the reason was he had launched his podcast and he's a pain in the ass. Right now, Tank's no longer here. Tank and Micah did not see eye to eye. That was probably Tank's defense, and the ones he was leading kind of resented Micah coming on so strong. But the key thing that's important there is how did I lose my train of thought again?
Talking about Jane Slater's report.
Yes. Okay. Jane Slater's report. Thank you, New Bear. That coaches were saying, I've had every player in my office saying, we got to do something about this.
Yeah.
And at the time, Jerry Jones said, no way, not trading the guy, right? And from all intents and purposes, what we heard today from Todd Archer, they're not even going to respond publicly to this trade request. It's a non-starter. Stephen Jones telling the media last night at the media party, he wears the weight of 30 years and he feels the pressure. He wants to get this thing done.
Yep.
You don't get closer by trading Micah Parsons.
Not this year.
But I think it is a good time to acknowledge how rough of a teammate Micah Parsons has been. The OTAs were always just an inconvenience for him. He doesn't socialize. He's tried hard to be a leader in the last couple of months because the Cowboys have asked him to be a leader.
Well, and some of that's posturing for the big deal.
Yes, and some of that's posturing for the big deal. So I would say as you're trying to build a Schottenheimer culture where everybody's buying in, when we're one big happy family, if there's a moody dude, and if you're not good, you're going to be gone to the next opportunity, right? If you are really good, it's an interesting conversation, but I don't think it would be wrong to say this is early in Shoddy's tenure. Let's make a statement to everybody right now. If you want to try to hold our feet to the fire and extract every possible red cent, we're going to make you fight like hell for it, and if you don't like it, you can get.
Well, and that's why nobody really had a problem with Pickens, because all his problems were about competition. It was about the game. It had nothing to do with anything off the field. The generations colliding. Think about when Micah was coming into the guys like Tank. They were from, even though they're relatively close in age, like Tank's a different dude. That era is just like now where they're splitting. Like, I'm a geriatric millennial. I was a millennial. Now there's like 3 classes of us inside of that 10-year window.
You're all very annoying. No, just kidding.
Super annoying. Yeah. Like the most annoying, because we grew up with Nintendo and it was a big deal when we got cable and we got cell phones and AOL and stuff. But we're also digital natives. So we think we understand you, but we also think we know more than the youngins. Like, we're the worst.
Yeah.
Own that all day. But that's part of the problem with Parsons and company, is that they have everything at their fingertips, and that's the only world that they know, which is why I would buy, 11 out of 10 no notes that he's part of the soap opera and it is scripted and they're texting each other laughing at all of us right now. But at the same time, it's why he's been a problem, because of the things he's done off the field. Because it's the opposite of the Pickens thing. It's the opposite of, oh yeah, this guy was lazy, he took a play off, it cost us. Or this guy is fighting to the point of, getting fines and doing things, with his eye black or chasing dudes into snowball land, right? While the ball's in the air. This is literally going on a podcast and saying, this other player that we're going to play next week sucks, and making your left tackle's job a living nightmare, or making other guys around you feel some kind of way, because there's just no reason to do that stuff unless you're more interested in your future career as a sports DJ.
Yeah, and he's pretty good at it. He's savvy. I don't have a problem with athletes, going in this direction of media. I think teammates are going to have to get used to it.
Sure.
It's just an extension of your Twitter account, basically.
I mean, I saw Amon Shumpert today on one of the basketball shows on ESPN, and he was fantastic. And I never would have thought that. I'm not talking about getting in these guys' way in terms of their career, even while they're playing. But what I am saying is that you can't go out there and put yourself out there and put locker room stuff out there and not expect that. If it's bulletin board material for the other team, that's 10x inside your own doors.
Yeah, and it might have been, Stephon Gilmore and a lot of the veterans that were around that were from a different generation that almost preceded social media. But hey, if the players don't like it, then that's something that you have to consider as a front office. I think it's very interesting. The Cowboys are not going to acknowledge the trade request, and Micah Parsons is not going to leave practice. So maybe this thing drags out, or maybe as we were talking about earlier, maybe a light bulb comes on for Jerry, and he says, we have really been messing up. He's too busy, right? Jerry's doing concession business, real estate business, oil business, contract business.
Yeah.
And, maybe somebody comes to him and says, man, you kind of got your eye off the ball here. And what you think is a tolerance for ambiguity is actually hitting these players like a ton of bricks of disrespect. And now let's go to Gen Z, where they're even more sensitive. and even more, rabbit ears of disrespect, right? They're always worried about being awkward. They're always trying to be the coolest kid around and stuff like that. So I think Jerry, there's the possibility that Jerry this weekend is going to go, wow, that really ticked off Micah. That doesn't feel good. I want to be friends with the players. I want players around the league to know the Cowboys are going to be good to you. And maybe it's time that we reevaluate how we've been doing things, because the way we've been doing things waits till the very end and gives them the most money. Maybe 8 months ago, we should have been working hard in communications, trying to find this middle ground that we could both agree on. Because clearly what the Cowboys want, 3-85, is disrespectful to the best player in the game, or in the top 5 for best defensive player. And what he wants, it's unrealistic.
I mean, he's the only one to do that first 3 years in the league, top 5. It's never happened before. That's what I'm talking about. When there's lists that the list is Micah Parsons, and then there's lists where the other guy is Reggie White. I mean, it's a wonderful thing to think about. Undisciplined was the word we were talking about yesterday, and talking about the penalties. And if you're going to talk about not believing the data about the defense with Micah on the field or off the field, you can't dispute penalties, right? Like, they're the most penalized, they're the 4th most in this. Second, we went down the whole laundry list yesterday. And when I'm thinking about discipline, is there's 2 ways that this goes, and they're both, it's like a pair of black eyes for Jones fam. Because one way is that light bulb goes on, and he goes and does maybe what he intended to do the whole time, and it is something insane, 45 or more. Even if it's 42-5 or more, that's still substantial based on what we saw happen with Myles Garrett and TJ Watt. Myles Garrett, after he demanded a trade, TJ Watt, after he damn near did, Hendrickson and these other pass rushers who were putting themselves in the same place. The other end is they answer the phone when someone calls, and then it's 2-3 ones, or it's 2-3 ones a player in cash, and then out of town.
Yeah, that's a good talking point. Like, what would you be willing to take for Micah Parsons?
Yeah, it has to be at this point.
Yeah,
because if you're at all serious, like if you're serious and it's not just a script and it's not just a screenplay that should get you thrown out of the damn table read, okay, 3 for 85. If that's not serious, then you can't tell me that you are if you don't pick up the phone and at least listen to what other teams are saying.
I mean, the trade possibility is so exciting because not only now is there a clear path to Pickens, but I'm getting 2 ones. I have more cap space.
Right.
Like, the Cowboys should really look at this like, man, he doesn't match Shoddy's culture. We're up against it money-wise. We have more players than the cap can hold. They're going to give us picks for this, and we get to keep Pickens. Like, this is a huge win.
You talk about, like, TJ Watt, Myles Garrett. Nobody offered the Pittsburgh Steelers ones. He's 31 years old. They're going to offer ones for Micah Parsons. He's just talking about mid-20s with so much runway ahead of him. And then, oh, by the way, you have the ability then, if you trade for him and he feels wanted, and you're not trading for him and giving up ones and not planning to commit a deal to him, then you're paying him as well, and then that's your plan on your team moving forward. He's not a rental for ones. He's not a rental for ones like the Rams went and got Fowler or Ramsey, because they went and got both of those players at once.
Would you trade him to Philadelphia?
You would trade him to the highest bidder. I mean, if it's Philly, if it's Washington, if it's Detroit, I mean, all the teams that you think about, that the most rumored teams, why would the Colts are not doing it unless they're trying to reset? The Bears already did it once with Khalil Mack. Now they've got Caleb Williams on his rookie contract, and they've got a lot of other guys under all kinds of team control. And then the guys that they paid, Tooney and others, like, they're locked in because of the things that they already have in place. Like, there's a lot of really interesting places for him to go.
Have the Rams reloaded their picks yet? They love to trade picks for all pros.
Especially, can you imagine him down in LA?
I mean, yes, that would be. I mean, that would be a match made in heaven
for him. Yeah,
but I want to go to teams that could be horrible with one of these picks. You know, I don't want to trade him to the Chiefs, the Eagles, that are probably going to.
Well, if Stafford goes down, the Rams are done.
Right,
and
that's what I want.
Yeah.
And the Bears could be easily 7-10.
Yeah,
with all they've added.
Yeah.
So I want to try to get at least one top 10.
Well, then you want him to go to the Colts because we're talking about the AR-15 experience.
You know, maybe I want to wait till the end of the year with him disgruntled, about to hit the tag, and I trade him and his rights to a team that already has a top 5.
Well, you tag him and trade him with the intent of him becoming a sign-and trade guy, and this drags out all through next offseason, and you get the best of both worlds. You get pissed off Humble Beast playing like his hair on fire on the way to the NFC East title and a playoff run for the first time in ages, but then you also you also get to ship him out of town and get all the picks that we're talking about. You win both ways, but in between is what? All kinds of new nursery farms on the engagement farm.
Yeah, dude, it's on fire. I mean, you get 3 years out of talking about this, and the media is not going to be able to have an appetite for it every day. But we've already seen in training camp it has raged out of control. 3 days, 3 out of 12 days. This story has absolutely printed engagement and ratings for the Cowboys and the Star. So I guess final topic in there when it comes to Micah Parsons and the possibility of trading him. Doesn't that seem like what Cowboys fans should want?
I don't think Cowboys fan loves Micah Parsons. Cowboys fan knows how good of a player he is. Cowboys fan probably, it's not their money, it's Jerry Jones's money.
But he told you today that he doesn't love the Star as much as you do. He's been pretending.
I don't think that's what he said. He's a Harrisburg kid. He's a Penn State kid. His family grew up rooting for the Cowboys somehow amidst all of that.
Well,
so if that's another part of the screenplay, I don't even want to get invited to the next table.
I hadn't heard that part about him and his dad being Cowboys fans until today.
I mean,
that's kind of like the extra salt in the wounds.
So there's also, this is the problem, is he's also said both sides of the state, right? Everyone knows the Philly tie. Everyone now knows the Pittsburgh tie. He's also got the Dan Quinn's my guy. I only fuck with Dan Quinn, the Washington thing. So it's like, what part, how many sequels to this movie that we're now writing that's going to go straight to DVD? Talk about geriatric millennial Gen X.
Yeah.
How many versions of this story are there? I think, though, the ending, whether it's happy or not, or deserves a sequel or not, is 40 plus for as many years that they can meet in the middle on, which probably becomes 4. If he wants 3 and they want 5, if he wants 200, and maybe it becomes a thing just like the TJ Watt deal where they guarantee the first 3 and there's some kind of out clause for both sides where it makes it more, manageable into this place where, he's still on the right side of 30, but they could also still, potentially do the sign and trade stuff like we're talking about right now.
Alrighty, that's a solid discussion there on Micah Parsons. Fascinating. Not sure where it's going to go next. Cannot wait for this weekend though, in the next practices, Newbear, because up next here on How About Wow, Lyle Collins is back. Had the extreme good fortune today. We got to the tennis courts early. And I was up in a tent just getting ready for the show where the Wi-Fi is real good, and I heard a pad or a medicine ball that was getting hit hard popping, and I'm like, what's going on?
Someone out there hitting a heavy bag, a little boxing gym.
I didn't know if I was supposed to be watching or not, but I kind of glanced over the barrier and I saw 72 out there, and I'm like, is that Lyle Collins? So I Googled a roster, and there's nobody wearing 72 right now. So I deduced maybe that's Lyle Collins. And then, he's going through this drill side to side and hitting a medicine ball, then come over here and hitting a medicine ball, absolutely exploding, like thundering into this ball with the big old, right? Like Lyle Collins is in full on intensity mode. I'm here to kick ass and impress you guys.
Absolutely.
Number 69, I think it was Cornelius, was going along with him, and that looked like an undrafted guy, doing his best to make a team. And Lyle Collins looked every bit at 32 years old as the first round pick graded guy that he was coming out of college 9 years ago.
He's one of the guys, like, a lot of times you run into, a pro athlete and you go, man, he's not really 7 feet tall, or there's no way that dude weighed, like the program fibs, like going back to high school, you add 2 inches and 25 pounds. And the thing that's crazy about him is he's listed at like 6'4", 325 or something. I always thought he was like 6'7", 365. He looks like a monster of a man. And for him to be in the shape that he's in, Dak wasn't lying. He is in the best shape of his life.
I don't know if I've seen Lyle Collins move that well.
No. And the very first thing, fast, strong. And then that's as simple and as clean as you need to be to get in and out of that thing.
Yeah.
You're going to get into some of the, we were talking off air about some of the Duke Manyweather stuff, right?
Oh, yeah. So, I mean, that's a big part of it, because we have to acknowledge here, as optimistic as we want to be about Lyle Collins, he, was in Buffalo last summer.
Not a great offensive line.
That he was on the final day of cuts. Not a great offensive line. And then he was like, okay, I'm done. I retired.
And where was he the year before? Cincinnati. Terrible offensive line.
Got cut mid-season. Joins the Cowboys practice squad. He's here as like Dak's bodyguard on the sideline, basically. So could adding Duke and like committing yourself to finally being in shape, like, I don't know if everybody knows, but Lyle Collins wasn't committed to getting in shape, right?
Sure.
He was a giant guy that played football that had a lot of fun, in between games. And it was just difficult for him to get in shape, not unlike Luka. Okay, let me just put it out there like that. But maybe on the other side of 32, missing football a year, he realized what he missed, and he realized he never gave himself the best chance. And while he made a ton of money, there was work to be tied up.
What did he say about Dak's kids? Right?
Yeah, I'm here to protect your daddy.
Yeah, so that whole thing about him being Dak's best, like at first I was kind of like, I mean, how good a shape could it be in? Football shape versus going to the gym is a completely different thing. But the more you get into it, and the reason the Duke Manyweather stuff is so interesting is when you go back over time, because that's what we're doing here, is we're trying to rewind the clock, right? And you're saying, how do you get back to where you were, where everyone thought this guy was going to be this transcendent kind of guy coming out of college, and he never really got there, and you just detailed basically the main reason why. And so then now you go, okay, he's putting in the work, he misses the game, he really loved the game, he loved that he missed that, he didn't even know what that was like because he wasn't working like that. And then the Duke Manyweather thing that's so fascinating to think about when we're talking about rewinding clocks is that, there was a time where he was basically selling workout supplements, trying to get his life back together, $12 in his pocket. And he starts, Charles Bentley, right, was the first guy that he worked with. And he goes through this process of this business that he's now built up. And the first guy that really popped for him was Mitchell Schwartz, right, Jeff Schwartz's little brother. And this is 2016. Go look him up. I mean, very good family. Both of those guys are very good players. They're great podcasters. Check them out too. But 2016, Mitchell Schwartz was All-Pro 2. All-Pro 2 the next year. All-Pro 1, All-Pro 2, 4 years in a row.
Yeah.
I mean, if anybody is going to be able to unlock whatever is still dormant inside of you, it's going to be Duke Manyweather.
Yeah, the testimonies around Duke have just been incredible. Like the fact that he rallied everybody to start that offensive line mastermind summit. The fact that one of the hardest working workout warriors in the league, one of the best right tackles of his generation, Lane Johnson, swears by him.
Yeah.
Like everybody swears by Duke Manyweather. And that's why the Cowboys have actually paired him up with their coaching staff to make sure they're on the same page. That's how much respect they have for him.
And don't forget, too, it's not just stars, right? And it's not just like this one thing where it's like Duke Manyweather's a stance and start guy or Duke Manyweather's a footwork guy. He can take a guy maybe like a DJ Fluker at the beginning or, along the way who's trying to hang on. Trying to get or trying to just get to a place where he's going from the practice squad to having a shot at really starting or being a starter, like we just talked about with Schwartz, going from being a good player to a great one, an all-pro one. And he's done it with guys at the beginning, the middle, the end of their careers. He's done it with guys on the rise. He's done it with guys that other teams have given up on. And he's done it with guys that everyone thought was done. Lyle Collins is all of those things wrapped in one.
He is. And so I think it begs the question, what does that potentially get you? If you had sort of sloughed off your way out of the league, you never got focused, and maybe you're just kind of burnt out and mailing it in, but you got first round talent, and now you're motivated, you have the best possible coaching. Can we hope that Lyle Collins is anything more than depth in a buddy reunion with Dak?
Well, I mean, hope is the best thing, or hope is a good thing. Maybe the best of things that no good thing ever dies. I can't stop thinking about screenplay lines since I've said it 5 times in this pod. But, when you go through the hope side of this, what I hope that it truly signals, tendonitis aside, is that Tyler Smith is a guard and that they are going to throw everything in the kitchen sink at solving the left tackle problem. Because you're going to say, we're going to be good from left guard all the way right, and we got one problem to solve instead of 2.
Yeah, and okay, so to that point, we got a question into a source today that said Lyle's going to be working at both spots, guard and tackle. So I think he's versatile enough and has had good seasons at all positions enough besides center to think that with some time, he could at least be a replacement level player. I want to believe that he can step in at least while Tyler Guyton is out and possibly be better than Nate Thomas or some of the job or journeyman that they're doing.
You got his name right today. He's not a musician. Rob Thomas.
Rob Thomas, Nate Davis.
We pay attention to the comments. We love the comments.
So appreciate that. Appreciate you guys keeping us accountable. But yeah, I hope that he can battle, and I hope when Tyler Guyton gets healthy, it's unclear, is Lyle Collins better than Tyler Guyton?
Guyton is another guy who works with Duke Manyweather, and one of the things that I've talked a lot about, whether we're talking whatever team, whatever position when you talk about veterans having the opportunity to work with young guys, and one of the things that could be really cool about this, there's a lot to root for because he's Dak's best friend and he's Dak's bodyguard and the, hey, I'm coming here to protect your daddy. Like, there's a lot of really neat narrative, right? But what could be really cool is if a 32-year-old man, a young 32-year-old man, just turned 32 a couple weeks ago, right? A 32-year-old man is able to say, this is my last shot. But this is also something, forget football, forget the money that has been made or that might be made, or if this is a 1-year thing or it turns into a 3, 4, 5-year thing where he really has a lot left in the tank. He's able to impress upon someone like Tyler Guyton on his rise, learn from the mistakes that I made, and here's how you can be better than I was on your way.
I love it, New Bear. I love talking football with you. That's going to do it. An entire week in Oxnard, California, brother.
Awesome.
Tremendous job.
Awesome. Can you guys, am I still Rudolph if I'm in the light? It's pretty,
I don't not
lobster
too
claw.
bad.
Pretty-
I think you're more like Rudolph the red four-armed New Bear. Okay, we're back, I guess, Sunday. Tomorrow's a travel day, back Sunday for
The
New
Sunday
Bear.
show.
Yes, sir. I'm Dawson. How about wow?